want to talk to you about a very busy day that Jesus had. And after we go over that a little bit, you'll see how busy he was. And then we're going to talk about something central to his experience that day. But Jesus had spent a lot of time with his disciples trying to explain why he was here. And everybody wanted him to be who he wasn't. They wanted him to take over the Roman government. They wanted him to free the Jews. They wanted him to get over there and try to save everybody, make sure that everything was peaceful, that all the sick were healed. And that's not why Jesus came. And during this particular day, over many days where they and the disciples had stayed a long time, Jesus came to a specific spot near the sea, and then after working with the other people, would teach them. Of course, he would do some healing. Some people were very sick, and that's why a lot of people came to him. They asked for healing, and Jesus would heal them. He was a healer, and he intended to be a healer when they needed help. In one case, somebody said, "Lord, I need to be healed," and Jesus said, "I will heal you if you are willing." And he said, I'm willing. So Jesus said, "So am I," and healed him. Well, the people watched this. And the more that Jesus showed up, and the more he performed these miracles, the more the crowds got, the greater the crowds got, more people gathered around to see what he was doing. Now on this particular day, Jesus has healed a few people. And I don't know how the effect of healing a few people is, but whatever few people there were, Jesus had healed them. When Moses had said to God, "How am I going to explain you to my people? They're going to wonder where I was, and how am I going to tell them that you spoke to me, God Almighty?" And God said, "Moses, I am who I am." And he didn't try to help Moses explain who he was. He simply said that just like Moses, you are who you are, I am who I am. And I'm not going to take time to show myself. And then he had to explain to Moses why he could not even show himself to Moses, because the sight of God would dissipate Moses and his molecules. But that's another story altogether. The point is that Jesus was who he was, and one of those things was he was a healer. If you were blind, he would heal you. If you were lame, he would heal you. If you were sick, he would heal you. And then he would sit down and he would tell parables. Now on this particular day, Jesus did a lot of talking. There were a lot of people around him. And so, like all of us, you get tired of hearing him. Some people listened to him, some people didn't. Some people understood what he was saying, some people didn't. At this particular time and this particular day, he gave us some of our favorite parables. And we learned from those parables by what he was saying. But each time that Jesus was speaking, he was trying to explain to them, I'm not who you think I am. I'm not the ruler of the Roman government. I'm not your doctor. I'm not here to heal you. I'm not here to change your life. I'm here to give you life, because you're dead. Inside, you don't understand. And so Jesus would explain these things as best he could through parables that we live with. But most important was his message to his disciples. 12 men who were going to carry the message of Jesus, and Jesus knew he was going to die soon. And since they were going to carry it, Jesus had to sit down with them and make sure that they would graduate from his Bible school. He had to depend on the disciples carrying the message of Christ to the rest of the world. So when it came time for the parables, after Jesus told the parables to the people, he then sat down with the disciples and said, "Let me explain to you what I am trying to say." And then he would teach the disciples, who themselves were unschooled men. They were fishermen, tax collectors. They hadn't really been in a lot of schooling. This was their education. But it was practical education, and as a way that Jesus could communicate how he was going to work and why he was not who they thought he was. He wasn't a ruler. He hadn't come to rule this earth. He hadn't come to straighten people out. He had come to give us life, which we had taken away from ourselves. We literally committed spiritual suicide, and that's what we're doing today. We're killing ourselves because we don't pay attention to God. We're ruining our country because we think we can go out there and shoot people. We're literally committing crimes of all kind because we are spiritually dead. God made it very clear, and many of the times he made it clear, he said if. And the if means you and me deciding what we're going to do. If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and confess their sins and pray, I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sins, and I will heal their land. Is our land healed? It is not. Will God forgive? Yes, he will. He said he would. Have we prayed? We have not. And as a result, our country is going to pot. Jesus was constantly trying to explain to them that he was there to give life. And then it was time for a break. He was tired. He spoke all day. He was healing all day. He was tired. He needed to get a rest. So he said to the disciples, get in the boat. Let's go to the other side where we can rest. Go to the other side, they said. Well, we got all these people here. We got a crowd here. You got a giant crowd that you can work. Why go to the other side? We've already got work here to do. Let us do the work here. Jesus looked at him and said, you just don't understand why I'm here. And then he got in the boat. He was tired. And he got down into the crescents of the boat and immediately went to sleep. Now, one other incident I want to mention to you before we get into this major thing I want to concentrate on is there was a man on the other side of the shore where they were going who had called himself Legion. He was a demon-possessed man. And evidently, according to what we learn, the reason he called himself Legion is because he had many demons within him. This man was so awful that he would bite your neck and he would kill you. This man was so firm that when they tried to bind him with cords, he broke them. This man was so tough and so full of the devil that when they finally bound him with chains, he broke the chains. People were scared to death of him. And then the boat arrives. And Jesus is the first to get out of the boat. And while he's getting out of the boat, this demon-possessed man, seeing Jesus, runs at him with all the fury, ready to kill Jesus, just like the demons are ready to do, until the demons recognize that it is Jesus. And suddenly, as Jesus grabs his shoulders, the man stops and says, "Oh Lord, please don't kill me. Send me into some animal. Send me into the pigs that are down there and leave me alone." Evidently, a demon has to go into some living being in order to do his stuff. And so Jesus said, "Go." And they went into a herd of swine, left the man, and jumped into the water and drowned themselves. And Jesus at the same time picked the demon-possessed man up that the people were afraid of because they'd seen him killing people. Any of you who think that Jesus is a mamby-pamby are very mistaken. This is a man among men who grabbed hold of the demon and lifted him up and said, "You will now be healed." But I want to talk to you about the trip, a boat. Jesus gets into the boat, goes to sleep. He's very tired. While the large boat is going to the other side of the sea, a storm starts. These fishermen who know the water look at it and say, looks like it's going to rain. Simon, who is very schooled in fishing, says, "No, it's not going to rain. It's going to storm. It's going to tornado like you wouldn't believe." And the disciples become a little bit afraid. They run around the boat, securing things, making sure everything is going to work. And there are other boats that have been involved with the crowd that have been following the boat because they want to know where Jesus is going. All of a sudden, all of the boats are being whipped around by very high waves, bigger than they've ever seen, and water is coming quickly into the boats and sinking them. And so the disciples go down and say, Jesus, get up. The boat is sinking. The boat is falling over. He was very tired. Jesus, get up. The boat is sinking. Help us. And Jesus stood up. They looked around and said, look at this. Don't you care if we die? We're about to sink. Do something. Jesus said, you have such little faith. Peace. Be still. The storm stopped. The disciples looked up in amazement. One of the disciples said, who is this man that even the winds and the waves obey him? You're a lot like the disciples. You've got storms inside you. I can't see them. Sometimes I see them. Sometimes we see your storms, and sometimes because we've been here a long time, we can recognize the storms inside your heart. But many of you have storms that you don't know how to calm. You have such little faith. No matter what the storm is that sinks the boat, Jesus simply says, peace. Be still. I don't know what kind of storm you've got, but I know many of you have storms. Many of you have talked to me about your storms. Every day I see people with storms. I myself have to struggle with storms. But Jesus wants to solve your problem. He wants to heal your hurt. He wants to calm the storm. And he will, if you give him a chance. Now, you don't have to. Like I mentioned with the country, will my people is the question, and that's a good question. Will we? It's the same thing with that storm. If my people will ask me for help, I will calm their storm. Will you? Not if you've let that storm rule you the way it is right now. Jesus wants to calm that storm. He wants to settle your life. He wants you to be happy. And one of the reasons you have the storms is because, like the disciples, you think those storms are going to sink your boat. You have no faith. Master, the tempest is raging. The billows are tossing high. Carest thou not that we perish? How canst thou lie asleep, when each moment so madly is threatening a grave in the angry deep? The winds and the waves shall obey my will. Peace. Be still. Whether the wrath of the storm-tossed sea or demons or men or whatever it be, no water shall swallow the ship where lies the master of ocean and earth and skies. They all shall strictly obey my will. Peace. Be still. They all shall swiftly obey my will. Peace. Peace. Be still. Master, with anguish of spirit I bow in my grave today. The depths of my sad heart are troubled. Waken and save, I pray. Torrents of sin and of anguish sweep o'er my shrinking soul, and I perish, dear Master. Please hasten to take control. The winds and the waves shall obey my will. Peace. Be still. Master, the terror is over. The elements sweetly rest. Earth's sun and the calm lake are mirrored, and heaven's within my breast. Linger, O blessed Redeemer. Leave me alone no more, and with joy I shall make the blessed harbor and rest on the blissful shore. The winds and the waves shall obey my will. Peace. Be still. Whether the wrath of the storm-tossed sea or demons or men or whatever it be, No water shall swallow the ship where lies the master of ocean and earth and skies. They all shall strictly obey my will. Peace, be still.